everyone, and welcome to Smart City Kids Kindergarten Admissions Workshop. My name is Roxana Reed, and I am an educational consultant and also the founder of Smart City Kids. We so appreciate that you took the time out of your very busy schedule to join us today. My understanding is that we have over 150 of you registered for today's workshop, and that typically we have thousands of you review our videos after our workshops. So we hope that this session proves to be extremely informative. A little bit about our company. We are the leading admissions consultancy in New York. We were the first firm to create the blueprint for what a student-centered admissions consulting practice model would look like. For over 20 years, our consultants have successfully guided families and students from nursery school through college for boarding school, public, private, and special education programs, with one guiding principle in mind, that children self-actualize and can meet their academic potential when we, as educators and parents, are guided by a strong understanding of their full needs and connect to those most ideally suited for their educational environments. Given the wide breadth of educational options in New York, we think parents are well suited to take advantage of them and their children's unique profiles and gifts. One more key feature about our firm is that all of our consultants are former colleagues of our panelists. They have been in the seat of being former admissions directors themselves, which gives them the unique lens and characteristic of understanding the work that it takes to make admissions decisions. Lastly, I want to thank all of the partners that have supported Smart City Kids over the years, starting with New York University, who have been partners for over 20 years, Memorial Sloan Kettering, our partners for over 15 years, New York Presbyterian Hospital, partners, they're actually one of our newest partners, the JCP Nursery School of Manhattan, where I've been the placement director for the past 8 seasons, First Presbyterian Nursery School, and Casablanca, along with over 40 corporations and nonprofit organizations that we supported as educational partners. I also want to thank the team at Smart City Kids for helping to organize this workshop. Special shout out to Adriana Payne, our managing director, Erica Papier, our business specialist, and Angela Zhang, our creative director. Now to our panelists. I'm going to ask in alphabetical order that you give us a little intro about yourselves and your schools. And if you can, keep it to under 3 minutes, starting with you, Jason.
Oh, okay. There we go. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Jason Caldwell. I'm the Director of Admissions at the Horace Mann School. In addition to being the Director of Admissions, I'm also an alum. I went to middle school and high school at Horace Mann. My brother went to middle school and high school at Horace Mann, and both my girls attend the school. My oldest is in 8th grade. My youngest is in 3rd grade. They both started in kindergarten, so I do know what it's like to go through this process. I oftentimes joke every admissions director should have their kid go through the process. I also always say, given all my roles, I was still nervous when I went through the process. So I know how you all must be feeling. It's going to be okay. You know, everyone finds their place. Horace Mann is a nursery through 12 independent school. The main campus or main 2 campuses are in the Riverdale section of the Bronx. Our kindergarten through 5th grade is in Riverdale, as is the 6th grade through 12th grade campus. We have our nursery division, which has our 3s, pre-K, and 3 of our kindergarten classes on East 90th Street. We affectionately call those kindergarten classes downtown. You have to excuse me, I'm from the Bronx, so anything south of 125th Street is downtown to me. And then we have our John Doerr Nature Laboratory, which is an amazing ecological environmental nature center that we have in the Washington Depot section of Connecticut that we use for all of our students, nursery through 12. For our youngest students, the Doerr staff actually come down for us. Horace Mann is known for being an intellectually rigorous academic institution, but also known for having a really wonderful, diverse community that's really tight-knit. It's a community of artists, academics, athletes, and people who really care about service. I think our community is the thing that makes us a really wonderful destination. It's a fun place. It's a loud place. We have lots of different types of kids. While the tent is not infinite, I think it's bigger than people think. And I look forward to sharing a little bit more throughout the panel and hopefully throughout the summer and the fall as you go through the process.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it to Jensen at Packer.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a big thank you to Smart City Kids for having all of us here today. I'm Jansen Poe, Director of Preschool and Lower School Admissions at the Packer Collegiate Institute in historic downtown Brooklyn. So everything from like 14th Street for me is uptown and the Bronx. So come down below the bridge, cross the bridge over into Brooklyn to Packer, which is a pre-K 3s through 12th grade institution, all gender, just over 1,000 students. I am speaking to you both as a representative of the admissions team, but also as the proud parent of two Packer Pelicans who are in 6th grade and 11th grade. So closely approaching the other end of the experience, and they both started in preschool. So that experience of watching that trajectory and thinking about what comes next, what comes after this. You're at the start of your journey, and it's really not just about this part of the journey, but it's about their growth throughout their time, and where they go beyond and where they grow up. As our head of school likes to say, what are they like when they're 40, right? So there's a good long way yet, but it comes faster than you think. And so here at Packer, we're really excited to have our children on 2 campuses, just a block and a half apart in downtown Brooklyn, right in historic Brooklyn Heights. And in this space, we are excited to have the main campus, our historic campus that runs 1st grade through 12th grade. And we also have our early learning center that was opened in 2018, built in the Reggio-inspired philosophy of teaching. So things are full of light and accessible to children at their height and their level. And the idea really is about, as Roxanne was talking about, their ability to drive their own learning and be those self-sufficient people that we hope they come out as on the other end. So that starts when they're itty bitty. We are driven by our mission, which is to educate students to think deeply, listen actively, speak courageously, and act with purpose and heart. And so I'll just give that little framework for you and hope we have an opportunity to tell you lots more on the other end of the city.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it to Jenna at Riverdale.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Great to be with you this afternoon. Thank you for including me. My name's Jenna King. I'm the Associate Head of School for External Affairs at Riverdale. I can't believe that I've been here now for 20 years. I also, like Jason, am a parent, and like Jansen, actually, I'm a parent at the school. I have 3 middle schoolers this year, and getting ready to start as a high school parent in the fall. I can tell you a bunch of different things. I'm right down the street from Jason, up here in the Bronx, I guess uptown for Jansen. We are an all-gender school, about 1,300 students on 2 beautiful campuses in the Bronx. We have our River campus, our 8-acre lower school, beautiful campus with lots of space, and kids often, or parents have often described it as a place where there's a playground for collective learning, and I really love that description of what the lower school is all about. I'll say more about that in just a second. Our middle and upper school campus is just a mile away, overlooking Van Cortlandt Park, with another 19.5 acres for our middle and upper school students to enjoy. In terms of what the school is all about, I would say our mission is really around mind, character, and community. We talk a lot about mind, and for us, I would also describe us as having a rigorous academic program. I think the goals of our academics here at Riverdale are really around helping students develop skills around who they are as learners, learning how to learn, learning how to ask great questions. We recognize that we're raising kids in a place where we don't know what their jobs are going to look like. We don't know what what their future is going to look like. And so really equipping them with skills to interact with diverse teams and to know how to use good prompts for that AI that they'll be working with in their school lives and beyond. That's really the goal of our academic program. We also believe that the development of character has to go hand in hand with that. I think especially in this day and age when we don't always have great role models out there in the world, teaching our kids to be kind and teaching them to value multiple perspectives is really a focus of our education here. And then lastly, we're really proud to be a diverse community in many different ways. We want every student here to have a sense of belonging regardless of where they're coming from geographically or what kind of family background they represent. And so we think a lot about that. And like my peer schools, we really want our students to graduate here knowing how to make change for good in the world. That's a big focus. So thank you for including me today, and I look forward to continuing to get to know all of you.
Thank you. Melissa at Spence, can you share your thoughts?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for having me. I'm Melissa Hong, Director of Admissions and Financial Aid at the Spence School. I don't have any kids at Spence like my previous colleagues shared, but I am a parent of 2 boys who are middle schoolers. This is my first year at Spence, but I've been in the admissions world for over a decade in other institutions in the city. We are a K-12 all-girls school located on the Upper East Side. Our campus is 3 buildings. Our kindergarten through grade 4 is our lower school located on 93rd between Madison and Park. Our middle and upper school, which is where I am now, is on 91st Street between 5th and Madison. And our newest addition to our campus is our brand new athletic center and ecology center and our 9 gorgeous squash courts, which is on 90th between 1st and York. And so our kids move throughout the building their entire journey here at Spence, where the kindergartner uses all the different spaces that we have available to them. At Spence, we are about rigor. We are about being joyful. Our motto is not for school, but for life we learn, and we live that every single day. As our girls grow into themselves, we are about growth mindset, resiliency, building their confidence, and making them the best versions they can be, which is different for every single girl that is here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Megan at St. Bernard's.
Hi, everybody. Thanks again for doing this. I'm Megan Reitzis. I have been at St. Bernard's for 19 years. I started as a teacher there. I taught 3rd grade for 10 years. I'm also a parent, like many of my colleagues. So I have a 6th grader. St. Bernard's is an all-boys K-9 school. We're on 98th Street. So in the middle, I guess, compared to my colleagues in Brooklyn and Riverdale. We were named after a street in Belgium. We're not a religious school. We're all in one building, which is really nice with boys to interact with, boys from various grades. We have lots of space for boys to run around, 3 big gyms, a recess deck, carpentry room. We find that if you let boys, even if they're not athletic, if they're running around for 40 minutes at 9 a.m., the rest of the day seems to go a little bit smoother. We are probably known for our academics, and we really believe that the world's a very interesting place, and boys come in sharing that, and it's our job to keep it alive and to keep an emphasis on knowledge and curiosity. There's also a big focus on communication, how to speak well, how to think on your feet, how to communicate thoughtfully, lots of public speaking opportunities. Because we're a K-9 school too, by default, kind of the leaders of our school are what would be middle schoolers at other schools. So, we have 4th graders meeting with our head of school for student council, and you can start clubs and in those middle school years, which is fun to see boys kind of take on those roles at that age. And then, like all of the schools here, we really focus as well on character and being a good person and kindness. And we have a good heart program to promote that, which is also great to see.
Thank you. And last but not least, Jennifer, I'm turning it to you.
Hi, thank you all. I'm Jennifer Levine. I'm the Director of Lower School Admissions at Trinity. Wow, I've been at Trinity 28 years now, doing various roles in this office, everything from reception to booking to tours to interviews. So while I didn't attend Trinity, I sort of feel like I grew up here. I've been director for 15 years, and the years go by. Trinity, we are on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. We're a co-ed independent school. We are grades K through 12. We have about just over 1,000 students. We are 315 years old. So we're a very old institution, founded in 1709. Downtown in Trinity Church. While we are an Episcopal school, at our founding, we are no longer tied to the church. We're no longer sponsored by a specific religious body. And I would say our community definitely represents the religious, racial, and ethnic diversity of our amazing city. And DEI is sort of woven into all we do, the lessons we teach, the books we read, the stories, the projects. To honor our history and heritage, back to the Episcopal part, we do have a weekly chapel service, and it's run by a chaplain, and it has teacher and student involvement. And I'd say it's quite inclusive and celebratory of all faiths, and is very moral value based. Let's see what else. We're founded as a charity school, and to stay true to those values, we have an Office of Public Service, and that is a big part of life here. We are connecting meaningfully with others in the community, with our neighborhood just around the Upper West Side here on a weekly basis, whether it's a local school or a senior center or a food pantry. We have many relationships with our neighbors. The arts, technology, modern language, literacy work, obviously math, swimming, PE, science, play, it's all part of a child's day. I'd say the day is structured and nicely balanced. Our campus is quite large for a city school, with many art facilities, gyms, swimming pools, labs, etc. A lot of outdoor space as well. The students wear uniforms. Let's see, there's so much joy and learning and play. We have lots of different kinds of learners and thinkers and personalities. The kids are curious, they're kind, they're eager to learn. We're really trying to teach them how to think, not what to think. Critical thinking is big. And I guess I'll end with our mission. We all have wonderful missions in our schools, and a key part of ours is conversation between student and teacher. We do that extraordinarily well, and it's evident in all we do. So we're all proud to work at such amazing schools. Happy to talk more about the process and be part of this panel, and really looking forward to hopefully meeting you all at some point during the season. Thank you.
Thank you for your introductions. I learned a few things that I actually did not know, that St. Bernard's was named after a street in Belgium. I had no idea. So I'm gonna have to go back to Belgium and take a look. I thank you all. I just was sitting here because I haven't done these panels in a while, and I was thinking, Jason, I've known you for about 16 years. It's been about that long.
About 15 or 16, that's close, yeah.
Jensen, I've known you since even before your role as director of admissions there. Jenna, I feel like I've known you for
many years, many
maybe
years.
15 plus years. Jennifer, I've known you all the 15 years you've been doing this work. Melissa, I've known you since before your role at Spence. Megan, you're our newest friend in your post at St. Bernard's for the last 6 years, but we've known Ann Nordeman for 2 decades. We've had long-standing relationships with you guys. It's shocking and remarkable how long the relationships have been, but also more about you, about how long you've been in these roles, and how much and how deeply you care about this work, and how much you care about New York City and the children of New York. So it's a testament to the amount of work that you've put into this, and how much you know about New York City, the children of New York City, the parents of New York City, the life of New York City, and how you keep this going. So I'm super excited to ask you the kinds of questions that folks don't dare to ask you. Can I? So we ask folks to ask questions, because I don't want to do the thing we usually do. We've done this rotation a long time, and I'm kind of interested to ask like tougher questions. Not so tough, some of them are easy, but I also want to get into some of the tougher ones. And so maybe I start with the easier ones and then get into some tougher ones, if you don't mind. And maybe some of you will answer them. We have some time, which is great. How would you describe the kinds of kids that thrive at your school? You know, people love to know that. Like, how do you know, especially about a 4-year-old? Like, how could you know whether a 4-year-old is going to make it through for 13 years at your school or 9 years, Megan, at your school? Like, how would you possibly know that at this point in time, other than through some other variables, right? Like, how would you know that?
It's such a great question. And because the children that we meet for the kindergarten process are so young, it is tricky. Fortunately, we all have the expertise of admissions committees and lots of educators weighing in here. And I'll just to say, for example, I'll just give you an example about Trinity, because obviously that's where I work. This is a very verbal place, like many of our schools. But we do know that for children who have strong language skills, receptive and expressive, and who can have a conversation and or can make connections pretty quickly and process pretty quickly, that's probably going to be something that my admissions committee and I are looking for, because this is a pretty language heavy place. That's not to say that if you need a thinking moment, you wouldn't do well here, or if you're more of a math and science kid, you wouldn't, or if you're shy. I'm not saying that. I'm just thinking generally, as I know what the expectations and challenges are and what our program is like. That's something we might be thinking about and looking for when we're talking with children and meeting with families. I can also just say one more thing, and then I'll give it to Jason. This is a large campus. We all have a lot of large, wonderful campuses. There are a lot of transitions. There are a lot of steps. There's a lot of movement around. That may not work for every single child. And that does not mean that child is not bright and curious and needs rigor and needs challenge, but maybe the pace is really quick. We're up the stairs, down the stairs, across the Great Hall, put your bathing suit on, in the pool, out of the pool. There's a lot to it. So when we give families a tour, we tour the entire campus. So you are seeing every nook and cranny, and you're understanding what a child would be going through each day. And it's a wonderful campus, and there's so many activities, and we take advantage of that. But I just point that out as to say something for parents to think about, navigating a large space with large campus, a lot of transitions and big kids in the school. How does that feel? So I won't go on, because I know my colleagues have lots of other things to add and things that we think about when you think about our youngest learners. But those are a few things that come to mind.
Okay.
Jason, I don't know, anybody else?
Sure. Actually, it's so funny. I'll piggyback off the transitions. I would say that that's a major thing at Horace Mann. We have a lot of different transitions throughout the day. The kids are asked to do a lot of things, both academic, social, extracurricular, throughout the course of the day. We too have a campus up here in Riverdale. So we have our kindergarten through 5th grade campus, and our kindergartners are actually in 2 freestanding cottages. This really is a magical experience. It really is a wonderful experience. But then they will go into the larger lower division building for our science center, our STEM center, for music, for lunch. They'll be in our STEAM labs. They'll go there for physical education, which they have 4 days a week. And yes, they actually do utilize the middle and upper division campus sometimes too, when the entire lower division might come over for an assembly, or they might do the pool. So that's something that is very, very important. Or use our field, or we have 3 fields at Horace Mann. One on the middle and upper division campus, a shared field called 4 acres, and then the turf field that we have at the lower division, affectionately called the Grasshopper. So yes, there are a lot of transitions throughout the course of the day. Can students follow multi-step directions? That's important. Can students self-advocate? Jennifer talked about language skills. That is something that's very, very important. We need students that can self-advocate. Don't get me wrong. We do extroverts and we do introverts, but that's something that's important. And I think when I use this term, people are going to say, oh, how can you know this in a kid? I'm using it for age appropriately. Kids that are intellectually curious. Kids that are going to ask questions, kids that are going to want to engage in what they're doing. We want kids that are going to have active minds, okay, and then they're going to be willing to try new things. And I hope this doesn't sound too corny, and I'm a fairly corny person, though. A kid that can be a good friend. A kid that can be a good friend. Community really is at the center of everything that we do at Horace Mann. So a kid that can be a good friend and be a good community member, a kid that's willing to help out somebody else, those kids would be a good fit for Horace Mann.
You know, this question comes up, I'm sorry, Jenna.
No, that's fine.
You want to jump in?
No, go ahead. Move on to the next one. I can.
Well, this is in connection to this, because what happens often is that a family will say, I have a particularly shy child, right? I usually tend to say, like, you know, the more of the observer. And how could you get those kinds of kids, the good community kid, the kid who asks lots of questions, the intellectually curious? How would you ever access that in a brand new setting with people they don't know, you know, all of that? How could you get access to all of that data when you have a child who's really shy, particularly in new settings? Like, how could you get that? Jenna?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on that one. I can tie in the point I was going to make before, so it's perfect. Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I can say, having a set of twins and having a very shy kid, that's something that I personally was worried about, even though I worked here, you know, of my own child going through the process. I do think what all of us care about in our process is really getting to know kids in many different ways. And so I think a lot of pressure can fall on what does that visit experience look like. But I think we also are, you know, getting feedback from the child's current school. That's an important part of what we do. At Riverdale, we do, our visit is a combination of a group and a one-on-one sit down with one of our interviewers. And so we really try to, I think it's really tempting to think that we're kind of looking for reasons to not admit a student, but I think I want to just like change people's perspective a little bit and let you know that all of us are coming from a place of looking for strengths in the children that we're meeting, and we really want to find out who they are and understand how they will engage with our community. And obviously the worst thing we could do would be to put someone in a setting that's not right for them. But I think it's important, if you know you have that shy child, take advantage of the parent interview to talk about that. Ensure that, you know, like with us doing a group process and a one-on-one, we're seeing them already, even within our short visit, in a couple of different contexts. And they may shine in one, and maybe you can't observe as much in the other, and that's okay. But I think that also, that piece, that's something to share with the nursery school, whether you're coming from a nursery school that's within our sort of admission consortium and the regular schools that we often work with, or if you're coming from a school that doesn't often send kids to schools like ours. I think it's important to ensure that you talk to the nursery school about who your child is and what they can share about them through the process. So we're also all looking for all types, right? We can't have a room full of all extroverts. Nothing would ever get done. So I think you also have to keep in mind that we're looking for a balanced group as we compose the class.
I saw Jensen, Melissa, and Megan want to weigh in, so I'm going to give you the floor.
Thanks. I just want to piggyback on what my colleagues are talking about. When we talk about community, we're talking about the family as well. These are very little ones. And when we see them in this interview setting, that's a tiny little snapshot. So the experts in these children are you, their parents. And so that relationship between school and home for a seamless experience in getting to know a child from all different angles is a huge part of this. So to echo what Jenna is saying, we want to know the child, we want to know you, we want to know the child through your eyes. And that's all part of building that community that's going to make a successful environment for many different kinds of children.
Just piggybacking off of everyone and trying to repeat anyone what you said, but just in addition, you know, I think the completing the application is part of that as well. We have the school report that comes in where they know your child every single day, probably much better than we do. They know that she or he is curious, asks a lot of questions. We might not see it in this weird artificial time that we've made up for your child to come in, and they recognize no one, but you're telling them that they're going to meet new friends and there are adults in the room and they're like, I don't recognize any adults, you know. So we know that that's kind of odd. And so all of these pieces, we at Spence have a holistic admissions process. We are really looking at all the different pieces to see your child the way you see them. We see them in a certain setting, and then your school shares more about how they are every single day. So like Jensen said, it's a piece of the process. It's not everything, it's everything combined.
Megan, share your thoughts.
I was just going to echo the point that Jenna made, that we're all of us here are building a class. So, you don't want, we want all sorts of different types of students, or all sorts of different learners, all sorts of personalities. So whatever your son or daughter brings to the table is perfectly fine and can add to any class. It's just a matter of finding the right fit kind of for your family and for that student.
Yeah, that's a really popular question that we get asked, and it's always, heart-wrenching when people think like my shy child can't shine in this environment because it's only the one that's sort of performing that will be seen. And we know that if every child walked in and performed, teachers would quit. Like, you have to have balance in the classroom. Like, you don't want a Bruce Springsteen, like just like rocking it out in class every single day. You need balance in your classroom. This is another popular question, by the way, that comes up quite a bit. We had a few questions thrown in at us, and this one comes up in private conversations as well. The price tag, right? Rent's too high, it's too damn high. And as a result, folks, particularly in lower school, are starting to measure the why private school, right? That question comes up. Why private school over public school? Some public schools, they started to raise the bar a little bit. They started to get a little bit better. And so the question is, why should I go to private school when my local public school seems to be kind of doing the trick? So I think this is a really fair question. I have a 32-year-old, y'all, and a 26-year-old, yes, the skin. And so back then, it was like the quality was not there. We had to make some decisions. It's starting to get there. What is the why for you guys for private schools?
Yeah, I think the amount of attention your child is going to get at a private school is unbelievable. To be in a reading group of 3, I always say boys, all boys school, but 3 students in kindergarten, really getting that attention they need, and having a teacher knowing when to challenge them and push them, and you got this, and when to hold back, and maybe it's time for a water break. And your son or daughter will be known so well at every level. And, St. Bernard's will know every other boy in the building, and we'll know all the teachers in the building, and we'll have coaches that have known them since they're 5 years old, and now they're 13. And you just get this sense of feeling valued and known at a private school. I think also the community is that all of these schools bring is phenomenal. As a parent, to walk into a place where all the other parents there, and you have a chance to volunteer and be part of a bigger group, especially in a big city like this, I think can be quite invaluable. And then the opportunity that these kids have in these schools is really unbelievable. Our 8th graders are leaving for Alaska on Sunday for 2 weeks, and they're building, making films in their filmmaking class, and building computers, and they're just doing all of these really amazing things at all of these schools that I don't know you'd have the opportunity to do in a public school.
I mean, I was putting you off, Megan. I think totally the attention, and I think kind of going back to our previous conversations of the shy kid, kind of having that environment that can bring out the best in both, having a really small student teacher ratio, having the resources, the experiences that independent schools give children. There's not the same curriculum for sort of everyone, the same approach. The girls, I say girls as well, but students all need different things. And so those reading groups, those math groups, the music, the movement, dance time, science, it's all really about making things accessible and high engagement, and the care that our teachers have for every single student in the class. So we're not all just reading the same book, but that I'm reading a different book than my friend, but learning the same lesson really matches their level of learning. We see children a year before they start in kindergarten, and that's a long runway for them to change as well when they see them in September. And so Private schools are able to be more flexible. We're not bound to a curriculum either, where we are teaching to a test. We all have sort of our own curriculum, our own standards that we are benchmarking our students against as well. So that also is another reason of why sort of independent schools can really nurture that student, their interest and their passions.
So yeah, I mean, I would start, sort of 30,000 feet up, right? It really is, and everyone's sort of keyed in on this. It starts with resources. So, by the time your kids get to high school at Horace Mann, for instance, they'll have access to 75 different clubs, 25 to 27 different publications, podcasts, 61 different athletic teams. In middle school, I think about the opportunities my oldest daughter has had, whether it's Model UN or theater or swim team or volleyball or chorus or Dungeons and Dragons club. There are multiple ways to engage your interests at these schools. I think about my younger daughter, how her teachers were able to key in on the fact that, wow, this kid is really, really good at math. And wow, you can do things in the STEAM lab at Genius Hour, but then also go do chorus and also, once again, have the phys ed and be connected. My daughter, so, the age cutoffs in independent school are different than age cutoffs in public school. So my youngest daughter has a December birthday, which means that she was just the right age. She can do public school, but she was still couldn't do independent school. So she did kindergarten in public school and then did kindergarten in independent school at Horace Mann. So I literally got a chance to see back to back the level of engagement. And I say my daughter went to one of the best public schools in the city. It still did not give her the attention that anyone would want for their kid. So you're talking about 32 kids in a class. You were talking about never having enough time to interact with the teacher. I've never been in a situation in the 9 years that I've been an independent school parent, whether it be an offhand conversation, a phone call check-in, a parent-teacher conference, an email, when I wasn't 100% certain that the teacher involved knew my kid and cared about my kid. And once again, sometimes at public school, when I say the public school teachers my daughter had were amazing and they're busted their butt, they don't always have the bandwidth to do that. And I think that's what you get at independent school.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think my colleagues have done a great job of talking about the benefits of an independent school education. I do also want to just get back to how you started this question, Roxana, which is around the finances. And I think it's worth noting that that is a real consideration for a lot of families, especially as our tuitions continue to rise. And I just wanted to comment that I think sometimes families feel like they may not qualify for financial aid from our schools, and so they may be tempted to, especially at the early childhood level, look at public school thinking, okay, I might do that for elementary. I think there was a question in the Q&A about that, and then move towards independent school as you get older. And that's certainly fine. And many of our schools do have openings as the kids get older, and we do admit kids from public schools later on. But I also just want to urge families who are considering that financial piece to really investigate the financial aid option at some of our schools. I think I think if I didn't live in this world in terms of the independent school admissions landscape, I may not understand that there are many families who receive financial aid from our institutions, making a wide range of incomes. And so I just want to urge folks that if the financial piece is a true consideration, I urge you to find out more about financial aid at our schools and what it covers, and the fact that we really want to reach those families for whom tuition might be a stretch, even if you might, not qualify for a full financial aid package. There are certainly different levels of financial aid that we can offer. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Thank you for that. If you didn't, I would have, because I think it's incredibly important to talk about, financial aid, to talk about the breadth of middle class families that schools have been targeting, as part of the makeup of families that are in schools, and we know in New York City what middle class looks like. It doesn't look like middle class in other parts of the United States. And so you're not trying to change the way people are living. You don't have to sell your home in order to access financial aid, but it really looks differently in different schools, and you should definitely explore that.
I was just going to add that for many of our schools, not all, but I think even many of our schools, we really try to keep it separate. The financial aid process and those details are separate from, like, my admissions committee doesn't know any of that. We're not talking about that. So when people are scared to check that box, or they're not sure, or they know they'll qualify, but they're scared it's going to put them in a different bucket, or they're not sure if they're going to qualify, we always just say, just ask, inquire, check that box. Don't be scared. Talk to our financial aid director, investigate, have conversations, and don't, our admissions committees, this is not something they're talking about. We really try our best to keep things separate. I just wanted to point that out.
I have two other questions, and I think we have a little bit of time, but I just wanted to say one other thing. I met with a family who shared with me that they had some concerns about they were like being pushed, a family in Brooklyn that was sort of like concerned that if they didn't go the private school route for lower school, that they would miss out on going to middle and high school, because for whatever reason, there was this big concern that, like, this is the time, I got to do it in kindergarten because it's going to be really tough to get in for middle and high school, because there's not a lot of great public schools, in middle and high school, which, there's some concern for that. That's viable. And as an entry point in middle and high school, it's very, very tough and much more competitive. And so there was sort of this other analysis beyond the finances that was kind of like, is that the right time to sort of gain access, because middle and upper school becomes so tough that I sort of almost have to start in lower school. So there was a sort of strategic mapping around timing for private school, which also comes up. I just wanted you to know that. So any thoughts on that? Because I think embedded in all of this is also part of the public versus private school. I get a lot of that kind of conversation happening as well. Jansen?
Since it was a Brooklyn family, I'll answer that. But yes, in general, I think that's some of the drive around, the conversation out there around, like, well, then I'll just wait in lower school and then go in middle and upper, because those are that's where the options are. And I think it really just depends on the various schools and the sizes and when the entry points are. And I would just say that's something you investigate, right? In your area, and the schools that are going to be appealing to your family. It's really about, at some point, it is about numbers, sheer numbers, right? Which schools have entry points at which stages. And it is true for us at Packer that middle school, for example, is really not an entry point. It's a tiny one, but where our main ones are kindergarten and ninth grade, because that is the shape of our school, and that's going to be different at other schools. So that can be part of the calculation, but not starting in kindergarten doesn't mean there isn't any opportunity ever again, kind of thing. It's just going to be different for different schools.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to a different question. This question came up, which is, how is technology used in the classroom? Screens, tablets. There's a lot of concern now around technology, abuse of technology. I understand that psychologists and the DSM-3/5 is trying to figure out how to even deal with the abuse of technology and using it as a diagnostic now. So tell me a little bit about where you guys are around technology and its use, or perhaps abuse.
I assume you mean once kids are enrolled, right? We're not talking about in the admissions process. We're talking about at the school. Yeah. I think at Riverdale, I will say, I think we have a balanced approach to technology, like we have a balanced approach to a lot of things. And I think we're all raising kids in a world right now where, we need to equip them with the tools they need from a technological perspective, and yet you don't have to have those tools in kindergarten. And I think there are, I will just say from our vantage point, we have projectors in all of our classrooms, and our kids might go on a nature walk and they might discover some sort of special leaf or what have you, or some other item on their nature walk, and they might want to come back and see other pictures or compare that with other leaves, and the teacher might put something up on the on the screen, and maybe they're looking at that, but we're not handing a device to every child, beginning in kindergarten. Of course, we did that during COVID when they were at home, but now that we're back at school, we're not doing that. And I think we really believe that getting them outside is a key part of their day. And, for us, they're outside a couple of times a day, at least for recess, but then additionally moving around from space to space. And I think we value that. At the same time, I do think by the time they're getting to upper elementary and middle school, they do need to start learning to type and to, have facility with using the tools that are available to them through technology, whether it's using Google Earth or it's knowing how to email a teacher and ask for help. I think those are skills that we're really trying to work on with kids in that sort of 4th, 5th, 6th grade level. At the same time, I walk around our upper school all the time, and sometimes you'll see, everybody's on their laptop doing a project, and then you might walk by 5 minutes later and every laptop in that classroom is closed and they're having a real dialogue and a discussion. We're still teaching handwriting. We're still having kids really understand how to have a proper conversation with a human being. I think that's a huge piece of what we're doing. And, I think that's the beauty of some of what we were talking about earlier of not having a standardized curriculum, is that we can adjust as needed and really adapt to the evolving needs of our students in the classroom. I think given, the Anxious Generation book that everybody's reading right now, I think there's a lot of conversation about devices and who has access to devices on campus. And I can say that that's a constant topic at our school. At the lower school, no one has access to a device. It's not on the bus. It's nowhere. Middle school, they're allowed to have them, but they're not allowed to take them out and use them during the day. And these are things that we're constantly looking at and evolving. And so right now, upper school students can have access to devices, and yet we're having a big conversation about whether that should still be the case after this year moving forward. And so I think that's a great question to ask as you engage at different schools. And I think it's important to recognize that these things are constantly evolving in our school, and we too are trying to stay current on the most up-to-date research and make sure that we're serving our students well.
I would just add to that, just the idea of technology changing so fast means that our work as educators is about teaching the kids how to use them intelligently. How does this device or these resources, and we are resource rich, so we're lucky to have them, but all the more does it become important for us to be able to teach the kids to utilize them intelligently, right? That's the human component. How digital citizenship is so much of the curriculum of technology. We have educational technology technologists on staff. We have IT people, but it's not about the technology. Is how does the technology enhance your teaching or enhance your learning? And then how do you use it judiciously? Right. And so great to be able to have access to that iPad, for example, but what's it for? How are you going to use it? And how do you use it in ways that show integrity, right? And so being able to teach into that, that's what we do as educators. And all the talk, ChatGPT, AI, we can all bury our heads in the sand and say, we're just not using any of it. But they're going to. Kids find a way. You can put all the filters you want. They're going to go around it. they're so savvy, and they're going to be the creators of this technology, right? And so the more important piece for us is around that teaching of integrity, that teaching of respect, right? And so how do you give credit when you take sources? How do you check your thinking, like, or do you believe everything that ChatGPT writes for you? So we are actually doing exercises in helping children use it critically. You know what? Let's do this assignment in 2 ways. You're going to do it manually. You're going to have ChatGPT do it. Let's analyze how they go together and have a critical conversation with one another about what the pros and cons are, where the right and wrongs are. It's having opportunities to engage, be faced with the questions, and then make smart choices.
Just to piggyback, and Jansen and Jenna answered that question perfectly. I think something that Horace Mann does, and I venture to believe that a lot of our schools do this as well. We actually have something at Horace Mann called our Parent Institute, because let's face it, we as parents, we struggle with this too, right? And we need some guidance to figure out how are we supposed to be providing the right scaffolding at home around technology when everyone at home, right, has different rules. Different families have different rules around technology. So what should we be doing? So, there are things available for parents, the way parents can be educated about these things too. It's funny, they brought an author here at Horace Mann one time, and I didn't necessarily agree with everything the author was saying about this subject. But one thing that he said that I sort of, I did agree with, it talked about that idea of social media and when should students be allowed to have social media. And I remember when my oldest daughter was in 4th and 5th grade, she had this curiosity, and we kind of said, oh, in middle school, at the end of middle school, we'll kind of readdress this, right? And then after listening to this author and doing more research, and this person was the only person saying it, they said, children really shouldn't be exposed to social media until they're at least 16 years old, until at least the end of 10th grade, if at all, right? And it was a very painful conversation. My daughter was very annoyed that we had to revisit it and change the terms of the deal. I used a Star Wars reference. I said, pray I don't change the terms any further. That's a Darth Vader reference. But that said, we did, because of the information from this Parent Institute event that we had. And so, yes, my 14-year-old is very upset that she won't get Insta and Facebook and every other Snapchat and all these other things until the end of 10th grade now, and not right now. But once again, everyone needs to make their own decisions, but there are things available to help best educate parents on how to make those decisions available at home too.
Right. I actually want to ask one more question. Since I started by telling you like how long we've known each other, I want to actually ask, what has kept you at your schools? And obviously for Melissa, since you're newer at the school that you're in, what brought you there? If you can share that, because I'd love to understand. I know what has kept me at Smart City Kids. It's my passion for New York. It's my passion for the love of children. It's my passion for, like, to me, the carrot has been, you don't know this, but I was supposed to be a therapist, and the carrot has been admissions, and the work has been helping parents to really see their children as they are, see them as they are, and really commit to the vision of like parenting them in the most beautiful way as they are, and then handing them over to these wonderful schools, all of them, the wide breadth of them, because we have so many of them, and into homes that are really the right fit. That's my passion, and that's why I call myself a consultant and then also the founder. What has kept you where you are?
Yeah, so I've been there 19 years. I think the people. I work with unbelievably talented, warm, brilliant colleagues who just pour everything into their work, and to see the boys be the beneficiaries of that, and just how they soak up all this information and just run with it, and to just, meet a 4-year-old and then see what he's doing as a 12-year-old before you blink is just astounding. I mean, we're around kids all day. How can you not love doing that?
I've been at Packer for 14 years in a variety of roles. So as a parent, as a division head in admissions, as a parent volunteer, all the things. And so certainly the community is a big piece of it. And I'll take it from another angle. The investment that we make in our children is paralleled by the investment the institution puts in me. This is very selfish sounding, I get it. But when I think about who my colleagues are and the longevity that they've had here, what keeps us here is that we are modeling for the kids what it means to be lifelong learners, to be invested in the work that we do, and we feel invested in as well. So, I want to learn more about X, Y, and Z. That's encouraged, and the children see that. And so I do see it as a trickle down thing, that we're able to give the kids this incredible education and experience because we are getting it as well.
Thank you. Jenna?
For me, it's a lot of things. I mean, being a parent here, I see things that way, but I think, to kind of go along with what Megan and Jansen have shared, I think the evolution of the school over time, it kind of keeps you excited. And, I think schools and education have been slow to change, generally speaking, but I think there's a willingness to try new things here and to really adapt to the changing needs of both families and faculty that I think has been exciting to be a part of for so long. Of course, it's the community, it's the campus. I live here actually, and there's something really nice about that. But I think it's also really just that open-mindedness about the future and the partnership that we have with families as they all look for the best thing for their families. So,
Yeah. Melissa?
I'm a little bit different because I just finished my first year at Spence, but I've worked in a couple of very different institutions leading up to my role at Spence. And I would say, yes, community, the passionate faculty for here for sure. But I think even in my whole interview process, when I was talking to families who were here and alumni who had graduated from Spence, it was just hands down something I need to be part of, as well as our head of school, Felicia Wilkes, who's in her second year, is unbelievable. And her vision for the school is really compelling. And so those were what brought me to Spence. And I am a product of partially an all-girls school education too.
Jennifer?
So much everyone has said rings true for me. I think there is something really excited. Megan mentioned it, like working in a school. Like I never wanted to teach or be in the classroom, but there's something really special and magical and fun and great energy working in a school environment. I think for me, staying at Trinity for 28 years, it really does feel like home. It is building a community, but it's the building of the community part that's extremely special. You are with my wonderful colleagues creating a class and building that class that you hope will stay for 13 years, and maybe some will, maybe some won't, but that's incredibly heartwarming and special. Granted, not everybody, we can't, our school does have limited numbers of seats in each classroom. And, but for me, it's also exciting if somebody wants something different. I'm happy for that parent if they've decided that an all girls education is better for them. And we talk about that. I'm excited because parents are learning a lot about their young children, and we're learning a lot about them too. And we're figuring it out together in some ways. I try to see this as a partnership. So my joy in meeting with parents, talking about the school, building that community that hopefully will graduate, and just working in a school environment. There's a pancake breakfast happening right now with first graders in pajamas. After this, I'm going to get a pancake because they celebrate. So it's really is something really special working in a school. And I echo everything else everybody said. Thank you for asking.
Jason?
One of the things in our mission statement is that Horace Mann prepares young people to lead great and giving lives. I grew up in the other side of the Bronx, so I did not grow up in Riverdale. I grew up in Soundview. And I remember the first time I stepped foot on this campus, it was like I stepped into a dream. The educational experience I received here, the critical thinking skills, once again, my curiosity was ignited. The kids that come to this school are going to have amazing opportunities while they're here and after they leave. And if we can teach those kids an amazing balance, right? One of our core values is a balance between individual achievement and a kind, caring community. If we can teach them that, yeah, it's okay to be successful. It's okay to follow your passions and your dreams. Certainly, I've done that in a variety of different ways, but it's also important to leave the world better than you found it. And if we can create a community that goes out and do those things, that's a wonderful thing. I say this a lot. So if you've ever been to a Horace Mann event or seen me on another webinar or panel, you've heard this. 29 people that graduated from this place were at my wedding. You know, the friends that I've had at Horace Mann are like my family. They're friends that I've had for life. And I'm so proud of the things that they're doing. Once again, yes, to fulfill their passions and go on to build beautiful careers, but also things that they're doing to make the world a better place. If I can be a part of that, if I can have those discussions, you know, I can have 10 different discussions with 10 different people on a variety of different topics in any given day. If just to be a part of that is why I stay and why I've maintained this relationship for so long.
I want to thank all of you for spending time with us, with the families who joined us today. We're so appreciative of your time, your intellect, your passion for your schools, and we welcome more discussions with you in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Roxana, for having us.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Thank
Adriana.
you.
Thank
Really
you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
Bye.
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 Bye.